To have a beautiful appearance and countenance, be benevolent by following 5 teachings of the Buddha. Greetings, everyone. Have you ever wondered why some people become more kind and radiant as they grow older, while others, despite wearing makeup and dressing well, cannot exude a graceful, gentle aura? The answer lies in the Buddha's teaching. With a pure heart, form arises. With form but no heart, form dissolves. In other words, a person with a wholesome mind will naturally develop a beautiful appearance over time, but if the mind is not good, even the most attractive features will gradually fade. Today we will explore 5 secrets to a beautiful mind giving rise to a beautiful appearance, drawn from the profound teachings of the Buddha. I promise you that without visiting a spa or using cosmetics, simply by practicing these principles, you will see a miraculous change in both your appearance and your life. Let's begin. First principle: cultivate wholesome roots to manifest a radiant countenance. Imagine that our mind is like a garden. If this garden is well cared for, watered daily, weeded, and bathed in sunlight, then the plants will flourish and bear vibrant flowers and fruit. But if the garden is neglected, overrun by weeds, and the soil is parched, then no matter how good the seeds are, they cannot grow. The mind works in the same way. When nurtured by peace and wholesomeness, it will naturally radiate inner beauty. This is the meaning of the Buddha's teaching, cultivate wholesome roots to manifest a radiant countenance. Here, cultivate means following the right path, returning to the calm and genuine nature of one's mind, while wholesome roots refer to the good seeds in the mind, wholesome thoughts and righteous actions. When the mind is pure, unclouded by greed, anger, or ignorance, one's face and expression will naturally become bright and serene. This beauty does not come from makeup, but from the inner glow of the heart. How can we cultivate a peaceful, wholesome mind? One of the most effective methods the Buddha taught is meditation. Meditation is not something overly lofty or reserved only for monastics. In reality, meditation is how we return to care for our own minds, keeping them from being disturbed by everyday worries or stress. To start, simply find a quiet place. Sit comfortably on a chair or on the floor, keep your back straight, and relax your shoulders. Rest your hands gently on your thighs. You may close your eyes or gaze softly at the floor in front of you. Then, focus on your breath. As you inhale, feel the air entering your nose and your chest expanding. As you exhale, feel the air leaving and your chest settling. Do not worry if your mind begins to wander, recalling work or other anxieties. Simply and gently bring your attention back to the breath without judgment. At first, sitting still can be difficult because the mind constantly jumps from one thought to another. But remember that the mind is like a wild horse that needs time to be tamed. Gradually, with just 10 to 15 minutes of practice each day, you will notice a difference. Your mind becomes less anxious, your sleep more restful, and your face more relaxed and radiant. The story of Mr. Min is an example. He worked in a high-pressure environment, often unable to sleep and feeling stressed. One day his friend suggested he try meditation. At first he was skeptical, but after trying it, he realized that meditation helped him release the day's tension. Just a few weeks later, his colleagues commented that he looked younger and more pleasant. Meditation not only helps stabilize the mind, but also changes how we relate to life. When the mind is balanced, we view everything around us with greater compassion. Things that once angered us become opportunities to learn how to let go. As we free ourselves from anger and competition, our faces naturally become kinder and more benevolent. In addition to meditation, another simple way to cultivate peace of mind is to practice mindfulness, living fully in the present moment. When eating, focus on the taste of the food instead of thinking about tomorrow's worries. When walking, feel each step and the breeze on your skin instead of being lost in thoughts about the past. Mindfulness helps us connect with real life and prevents the mind from being disturbed by unnecessary things. The Buddha taught that when the mind is at peace, not swayed by greed or anger, we experience true happiness. That happiness will show in our eyes, our smile, and in how we treat others. This is timeless beauty, beauty that does not need external adornment but comes from inner tranquility. Therefore, if you wish to have a beautiful countenance, do not only care for your outward appearance. Begin with your mind by practicing meditation. living mindfully, and nurturing wholesome thoughts. When the mind is at peace, everything around you becomes more beautiful. By cultivating wholesome roots, you not only beautify yourself, but also spread peace to those around you. That is real beauty. Second principle, contemplation of impurity. Wholesome roots manifest a radiant countenance. Contemplation of impurity is a crucial method in the Buddhist teaching, helping us perceive the true nature of the body and all phenomena around us. Here, impurity does not carry a negative judgment, but instead serves to make us understand that everything in life, even the human body, is imperfect and impermanent. When we fully realize this, we relinquish unnecessary attachments. The mind becomes tranquil, and from that inner peace, true beauty naturally shines outward. People often cling to outward appearance and value form above all else. But in reality, the body we care for each day is merely a temporary combination of the elements earth, water, wind, and fire. This body will age, fall ill, and eventually disintegrate. When we recognize this, we no longer hold vain ambitions or fear for our looks. The mind becomes light and releases attachments, and thus the countenance becomes calm and benevolent, marked by tranquility and authenticity. For that reason, the Buddha taught that contemplating the body's impurity is not meant to cause pessimism, but to help us understand impermanence, thereby freeing ourselves from attachment to form. Someone who practices this contemplation of impurity will gradually let go of envy, anger, and greed, and this allows their heart to become unburdened and their appearance to grow brighter and more serene. There is a story about a woman named Hoa. She was famous for her outward beauty, always proud of her looks and meticulous about her appearance. One day, however, she learned she had a serious illness that left her face pallid and her body frail. She sank into despair, lost self-confidence, and began to avoid meeting anyone. A friend encouraged her to visit a monastery to listen to the Dharma. There, her teacher explained that the body is like an earthen jar. No matter how beautifully it is painted, it will eventually crack and break. Instead, one must return to caring for the mind, as that alone truly endures. She began practicing contemplation of impurity, realizing that the body is only a temporary vehicle for experience and spiritual practice. Once she let go of attachment, she felt her soul lighten, and a wonderful thing happened. Her face gradually became gentle and benevolent, a kind of beauty she had never known before. Through this practice, we come to understand that true beauty does not lie in outward form. Youth cannot last forever, but a wholesome mind leaves a lasting impression. The body may not be perfect, but a loving gaze or a compassionate smile makes us memorable far more than any makeup ever could. It is wholesome thoughts and acts of compassion that create timeless beauty. One who understands contemplation of impurity will no longer be bound by jealousy, anger, or competitiveness. Instead, they live lightly, without scrambling for superficial things. From that, their appearance naturally becomes bright and pleasing. Contemplation of impurity is not only a way of thinking, but also a way of life. When we view life with eyes of truth, understanding that all things are impermanent, we worry less and live more freely. For example, if you find yourself irritated by a small matter, remind yourself, this will pass. Is it really worth my worry? Or if you envy someone else's success, remember that they are simply following their own path of causes and conditions. Nothing lasts forever. Such reflections not only calm the mind, but also allow the spirit to shine, and this compassion then shows in our countenance. Practicing contemplation of impurity also teaches us to become more patient and forgiving in daily life. One person once said that before, every time she went to the market and saw someone snatch away a vegetable she wanted, she would stay upset all day. But after practicing contemplation of impurity, she realized that cabbage or fish, no matter whose they are still temporary and not worth distress. Since then, she stopped fighting over trivial things. Her mind became more serene and her smile more radiant. How can we practice contemplation of impurity on a daily basis? It is very simple. Begin by observing everything around you, understanding that our body, whether healthy or weak, is not permanent. Observe the flow of life and recognize that all things from beauty and wealth to fame are fleeting. Nothing deserves attachment. When we live with that attitude, unbound by trivial matters, life feels much lighter. Contemplation of impurity does not make us cold or indifferent to the world. On the contrary, it helps us let go of what is unnecessary, focusing us more on cultivating a wholesome and compassionate mind. When our heart is pure, our outward beauty becomes a reflection of that purity, an elegance no makeup can provide. Third principle, wholesome heart manifests a radiant countenance, a gentle smile, compassionate eyes, and soft speech. These are the expressions of one with a benevolent heart. The Buddha taught that compassion is not only the key to opening the door of happiness, but also the root of a kind and radiant appearance. This is called wholesome heart manifesting a radiant countenance, meaning that inward compassion and kindness will reveal themselves outwardly, making one's presence amiable and attractive. Second principle, contemplation of impurity. Wholesome roots manifest a radiant countenance. Contemplation of impurity is a crucial method in the Buddha's teachings, helping us perceive the true nature of the body and all phenomena around us. Here, impurity does not imply something negative, but rather encourages us to understand that everything in life, including the human body, is imperfect and impermanent. When we deeply realize this, we let go of unnecessary attachments. The mind becomes calm, and from that inner tranquility, true beauty naturally shines outward. People often cling to outward appearance and view form as paramount. In reality, the body we care for each day is merely a temporary combination of the elements earth, water, wind, and fire. This body will grow old, fall ill, and eventually disintegrate. When we recognize this truth, we no longer hold on to vain ambitions or fear for our looks. The mind becomes light and releases attachments. As a result, the countenance becomes serene and benevolent, marked by tranquility and authenticity. For that reason, the Buddha taught that contemplating the body's impurity is not intended to foster pessimism, but to help us understand impermanence and free ourselves from attachment to form. One who practices this contemplation of impurity will gradually let go of envy, anger, and greed. This allows their heart to become unburdened and their appearance to grow brighter and more radiant. There is a story about a woman named Hoa. She was famous for her outward beauty, always proud of her looks and meticulous about her appearance. One day, however, she discovered that she had a serious illness, and her face became pale and her body weak. She sank into despair, lost self-confidence, and began to avoid meeting anyone. A friend advised her to visit a monastery to listen to the Dharma. There, her teacher explained that the body is like an earthen vessel. No matter how beautifully it is painted, it will eventually crack and break. One must return to caring for the mind, for that alone truly endures. She began practicing contemplation of impurity and realized that the body is merely a temporary vehicle for experience and spiritual practice. Once she let go of attachment, she felt her soul lighten, and something wonderful happened. Her face gradually grew gentle and benevolent, a kind of beauty she had never known before. Through this practice, we come to understand that true beauty does not lie in outward form. Youth cannot last forever, but a wholesome heart leaves a lasting impression. The body may be imperfect, but a loving gaze or a compassionate smile makes us memorable far more than any makeup ever could. It is wholesome thoughts and acts of kindness that create timeless beauty. Those who understand contemplation of impurity will no longer be bound by jealousy, anger, or competitiveness. Instead, they live lightly, without grasping after superficial things. From that, their appearance naturally becomes bright and pleasing. Contemplation of impurity is not only a way of thinking, but also a way of life. When we view life with eyes of truth, acknowledging that all things are impermanent, we worry less and live more freely. For example, if you find yourself irritated by a minor matter, remind yourself, this will pass. Is it truly worth my worry? Or if you envy someone else's success, remember that they are simply following their own path of causes and conditions. Nothing lasts forever. Such reflections not only calm the mind, but also allow the spirit to shine. Compassion then shows through our countenance. Practicing this contemplation also teaches us to become more patient and forgiving in daily life. One person once recounted that, before, every time she went to the market and saw someone grab a vegetable she wanted, she would stay upset all day. But after practicing contemplation of impurity, she realized that whether the cabbage or fish belonged to her or someone else, it was still temporary and not worth distress. Since then, she has stopped fighting over trivial matters. Her mind has become more serene and her smile more radiant. How can we practice contemplation of impurity daily? It is very simple. Begin by observing everything around you and understanding that our body, whether healthy or weak, is not permanent. Observe life's flow and recognize that all things, from beauty and wealth to fame, are fleeting. Nothing deserves attachment. When we live with that attitude, unbound by trivial matters, life feels much lighter. Contemplation of impurity does not make us cold or indifferent to the world. On the contrary, it helps us let go of what is unnecessary and focus more on cultivating a wholesome and compassionate heart. When our mind is pure, our outward beauty becomes a reflection of that purity, an elegance no cosmetic can provide. A touching story of compassion can illustrate this clearly. Long ago, a monk was on a pilgrimage when he encountered a small bird lying injured on the path. Many people passed by without noticing the bird. The monk stopped, gently lifted the bird, and carried it into the forest to care for it. Although it seemed like a very small act, the monk's compassion earned everyone's respect. This story not only teaches us the value of loving kindness, but also shows that even the smallest acts of kindness make people respectful and inspiring. Moreover, compassion helps us manage negative emotions when encountering someone who behaves wrongly or causes harm. Instead of becoming angry, try to see them through the eyes of compassion. A person who acts poorly often carries suffering or lacks love. Instead of criticizing them, think that they need help, and your anger will diminish. When you maintain calm and forgiveness, your face will not appear tense or frowning. Instead, it will exude tranquility and warmth. The Buddha taught that compassion has great power to dissolve suffering. When you live with a compassionate heart, not only do you feel happiness, but those around you also experience joy. Imagine if everyone in your family treated one another with compassion. How peaceful and warm the household would be. If each of us brought compassion to the workplace, conflicts would surely decrease. And if the whole community lived in loving kindness, society would become more beautiful. Cultivating compassion is not difficult. You can begin by resolving to help those around you. Offer your seat to an elder on the bus, smile at a stranger, or simply speak gentle words instead of harsh ones. These actions not only make others happy, but also bring you inner peace. From there, your countenance will gradually change, becoming more benevolent and radiant. Remember that compassion and wholesome roots not only help us become more beautiful, but also build a meaningful and happy life. A smile born from love is more beautiful than any makeup. A gentle, empathetic gaze is more comforting than any flattering words. Most importantly, compassion helps us live more fully, making each day a joyful one. Therefore, if you want a beautiful countenance, begin with compassion. When you treat everyone with kindness, understanding, and wholesome actions, you not only beautify yourself, but also bring light to this world. Sow the seeds of compassion today to reap smiles, gentle gazes, and beautiful countenances from within. Fourth principle, contemplation of dependent origination. Wholesome roots manifest a radiant countenance. The Buddha taught that all phenomena in the world arise due to conditions. Nothing in this world exists independently or eternally. All events, all people, and all circumstances are the result of countless conditions coming together. Understanding dependent origination not only helps us see through life's true nature, but it is also the key to a peaceful mind and a radiant, benevolent countenance. This is the meaning of the fourth principle. Wholesome roots manifest a radiant countenance. Contemplate dependent origination, and wholesome roots manifest a radiant countenance. Reflect on your own life. Is not every event the outcome of countless factors converging? Success comes from your own effort, but it also depends on the support of family, friends, and society. A healthy tree cannot grow from just a seed. It needs fertile soil, water, sunlight, and time. Similarly, The beauty of one's countenance and the peace in one's life depend on the conditions we have sown in the past. Practicing contemplation of dependent origination helps us understand that everything happens for a reason. When facing difficulties, instead of blaming, we learn to accept and inquire into the conditions that led to that situation. When we receive good results, we do not become arrogant or take them for granted. Instead, we learn to appreciate what we have. This attitude reduces anger, increases compassion, and our appearance becomes calmer and more serene. There is a story of a woman named Yin who constantly blamed fate for her misfortune. Her husband left her for someone else, leaving her to raise 2 young children alone. She lived with resentment, blaming her husband's betrayal and feeling that life was unfair. One day, she happened to hear a teacher giving a Dharma talk about dependent origination. The teacher said, "Husband, children, family, or possessions all arise from conditions. When conditions end, no matter how hard you try to hold on, everything will vanish. Think of them as owing you a debt of kindness, and once the debt is repaid, they leave." After hearing this, Yin gradually understood that nothing in life lasts forever. She began to let go of hatred and focused on raising her 2 children well. Miraculously, her face, once lined with sorrow, became gentle and her eyes softened. She not only freed herself, but also became an inspiration to other women in her village. Contemplation of dependent origination not only helps us accept life's impermanence, but also encourages us to sow wholesome seeds for the future. When you understand that everything in life has a cause, you will be motivated to do good deeds. If you desire a harmonious family, begin by treating everyone with love and respect. If you want filial children, set an example of kindness and patience. These wholesome actions are the seeds that will result in good conditions later, benefiting not only your countenance but your entire life. Imagine someone who is often angry, jealous, and selfish. They will display a tense expression, cold eyes, and a heavy presence. In contrast, someone who lives gently, understanding that everything arises from conditions, will always wear a smile, have a gentle gaze, and a calm countenance. This is the clearest expression of dependent origination and wholesome roots manifesting a radiant countenance. Practicing contemplation of dependent origination is not difficult. Simply observe what happens in your life and ask yourself, where did this come from? Where will this lead? When faced with injustice, remember it results from unwholesome conditions in the past. When you do good, trust that those wholesome conditions will produce sweet results in the future. This understanding helps you worry less and avoid sorrow. In turn, your countenance will change positively. The principle of dependent origination also helps us live more selflessly. When someone behaves poorly, instead of reacting with anger, consider that they may be influenced by unwholesome conditions from their past. When you treat them with compassion, you not only give them a chance to change, but also sow a wholesome seed yourself. Remember that we are all connected through invisible conditions, and by treating others well, you enhance the beauty of your own countenance. Good conditions create blessings, the Buddha once taught. When you sow wholesome seeds, you not only make life meaningful now, but also ensure a future filled with light. Contemplating dependent origination helps you view life with compassion and live with an open heart. That understanding lays the foundation for developing a benevolent, radiant appearance. Therefore, practice reflecting on dependent origination every day. Live with gratitude and cultivate wholesome deeds. When you let go of resentment and attachment, when you understand that everything in life arises from causes and conditions, you will feel a gentle lightness in your heart. From that peaceful mind, your countenance will become bright and full of vitality. That is enduring beauty, born from the wholesome roots you have nurtured. 5. Buddha recitation. Wholesome roots manifest a radiant countenance. Among the Buddha's teachings on how to create a benevolent, gentle appearance, the 5th and most important is the practice of Buddha recitation. Wholesome roots manifest a radiant countenance. Reciting the Buddha's name is not only a method to calm and steady the mind, but also a way to cultivate deep wholesome roots and produce an inner beauty that transcends worldly standards. What does Buddha recitation mean? It is not merely uttering the Buddha's name. It involves focusing the mind on the noble qualities that the Buddha embodies: wisdom, compassion, and enlightenment. Whenever we recite Namo Amitabha Buddha or any Buddha's name, we not only evoke the Buddha but also awaken those virtuous qualities within ourselves. When the mind constantly recalls the Buddha and the lips continually chant the Buddha's name, anxieties and anger will gradually dissolve. When the mind is pure and wholesome, the face itself reflects serene, radiant peace. It is like a mirror. If it is covered with dust, light cannot reflect through it. But when the mirror is clean, light shines brilliantly and spreads everywhere. The story of the elderly woman, Jiao Tam, illustrates the power of Buddha recitation. She was an older woman living in solitude. After her husband and child passed away, she spent many years sunk in sorrow and depression, her face always bearing a look of melancholy. One day, she went to a temple and was advised by a monk. Instead of dwelling on painful memories, try reciting the Buddha's name each day. Each recitation will dissolve your suffering and help you find joy from within. Following his guidance, she began reciting Namo Amitabha Buddha daily, whether she was working or resting. Remarkably, after just a few months, not only did her mind become more peaceful, but her eyes and smile also radiated warmth and brightness. Those around her commented that she seemed like a completely different person, far more benevolent and kind than before. Buddha recitation not only improves one's appearance, but also serves as a means to regulate the mind in moments of anger. If you pause and recite Namo Amitabha Buddha, your anger will subside and your calm will return. In times of anxiety, a single recitation can help steady your mind. Those who regularly recite the Buddha's name often carry a gentle countenance, bright eyes, and an amiable smile. This is because they have learned to master their mind, refusing to let negative emotions dominate. Buddha recitation can take many forms, depending on one's circumstances and preferences. You may chant aloud so that the sound of the Buddha's name resonates, helping the mind to focus and dispel distractions. Alternatively, you can recite silently, coordinating each breath with Namo Amitabha Buddha, inhaling and exhaling in unison with the mantra. If you are busy, recite while doing household chores, walking, or before sleeping. What matters most is not the number of recitations, but that you recite with sincerity and concentration. The Buddha taught that reciting the Buddha's name not only purifies the mind, but also serves as a bridge connecting us with the finest qualities within ourselves. When you recite the Buddha's name, you awaken inherent compassion, wisdom, and peace. As a result, your face becomes luminous and your expression serene. Imagine this. Each morning upon waking, instead of reaching for your phone to check the news, you spend a few minutes reciting the Buddha's name. When your mind begins the day with peace and stillness, every action and word you offer throughout the day will bring joy to others. You will no longer be easily angered or anxious over trivial matters. Instead, you will embody tranquility and compassion. Those around you will notice the difference in you, and you will find life becoming lighter and more harmonious. Another remarkable aspect of Buddha recitation is that it not only enhances your appearance in this life, but also plants wholesome seeds for the future. Regular recitation cultivates deep, wholesome roots, enabling practitioners not only to enjoy blessings now, but also to accumulate merit for future lifetimes. The Buddha once said, "Those who constantly recite the Buddha's name, whether in this life or the next, will always live in peace and will not be surrounded by suffering." Therefore, Buddha recitation is not merely a practice, but also a way to nurture both inner and outer beauty. When the mind is tranquil, the eyes are gentle, and the smile is radiant, you not only experience happiness within, but also spread that joy to those around you. Each recitation is a step closer to enlightenment, and those steps help you become a benevolent, peaceful person. Begin today. Spend just a few minutes each day reciting the Buddha's name. You will feel the difference in your heart. Reciting the Buddha's name not only beautifies the mind, but also serves as a secret to cultivating a radiant and enduring appearance over time. Namo Amitabha Buddha. Dear friends, after exploring the 5 principles the Buddha taught in Wholesome Roots Manifest a Radiant Countenance, we see that true beauty does not arise from external adornment, but from the heart of each individual. A heart that is wholesome, peaceful, and compassionate creates a benevolent appearance that others love and respect. If we meditate to calm and clarify the mind, contemplate impurity to understand impermanence and release attachments, cultivate compassion to love all beings without discrimination, understand dependent origination to live with greater tolerance and ease, and recite the Buddha's name daily to purify the mind and connect with noble qualities, then not only will our outward appearance transform, but our entire life will become more peaceful and meaningful. Remember, a beautiful mind gives rise to a beautiful appearance. A gentle smile, compassionate eyes, and a benevolent face are not things we can buy. They are the result of daily cultivation and practice. Do not wait for tomorrow. Start today. Spend a few minutes each day meditating, reflecting, generating compassion, and reciting the Buddha's name. These small acts sow seeds of wholesomeness, allowing you to harvest true beauty, timeless beauty that comes from within. Thank you for listening and accompanying me. Namo Amba Buddha.